that it's several $100,000, and there's no way bank's gonna lend on that.
Okay, so any motion made tonight would have to include reference to that.
Yeah, I think Madam Chair is probably saying subject to engineering concerns and fire concerns, because it's really not so much a site plan issue as it is a engineering and water and sewer issue.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? If no more questions, then a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Belmar Harbor case 0414S 41700 Conger Bay. The applicant proposing a new 18,000 square foot building, which is number 12, in a pavilion and storage area at the north end of building number 8, excluding any design plans or construction for building number 4, subject to engineering and fire department concerns relative to water mains. Guess that's it.
Okay, I have a motion. May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Mr. Batcha, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Would anyone else like to come up and make any comments or questions at this time? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Bloom.
Sure. Member Tominello?
Yes.
Member Batcha?
Yes.
Member Fout?
Yes.
Member Bloom, yes. Chairperson Moon?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very
Congratulations,
much,
Mr. Foster.
appreciate it.
We'll look to see you again.
Okay.
Take care. All right, give us just a second to switch over to our next case. Okay. Our next case, Mr. Bloom, we're in the public hearing section.
Sure. The next case, first in the public hearing, is number 2 on the agenda, case number 0314 SLU, 2020 Outdoor Media, 41160 Executive, Harrison Township. They're proposing a 14-foot by 48-foot, 70-foot high billboard zoned M1.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. This is a public hearing. We are opening a public hearing this evening. We hear that the applicant is requested to table this item until, I believe, the April meeting. But because the public hearing was noticed and you all are here, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing, take your comments. This is our fact-finding portion only. We're not making any decisions this evening. We will hold the public hearing open through March and into April to allow the applicant time to be present for his portion. So with that, may I have a motion to open the public hearing, please? For case,
So
sorry,
moved,
thank you.
Madam Chair.
May I have a second,
I'll
please?
support that.
Okay, and roll call, please, Mr. Bloom.
Member Tominello?
Yes.
Member Bloom, yes. Member Fout?
Yes.
Member Batcha?
Yes.
Chairperson Murray?
Yes. Okay, the public hearing is open. Would anyone like to come up and speak to this item? Mr. Bardell?
William Bardell, 18-year resident, new kid on the block. We need another billboard like we need a hole in the head. We're trying to fight blight in this township, and a big outdoor media billboard is exactly what we don't need. It's exactly what we don't need. There's certain ordinances with spaces between that, and I'm just wondering if this guy would like this sign in his neighborhood. We got enough of that. We're trying to fight blight. This is blight. Outdoor big signs, it's sign pollution, it's blight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bardell.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Wolf Peterman, 38233 Seaway Court, Harrison Township. My concern would be with if it's a medium sign, is it one of the bright lights that, kind of blinds you as you're coming down the freeway? And how close would be the other signs? I tend to agree with Mr. Bardell. We have quite a few billboards in the area, but really if they're bright lights at night, rather see something else.
Thank you, Mr. Peterman. Anyone else? Okay, if any of the board members would like to address anything, if not, then I would entertain a motion to table this item until the April meeting, which is, Sabrina?
I believe the 18th. Let me check real quick. I'm sorry.
That's okay?
17th.
April
excuse me.
17th?
Yep.
Okay, I would request a motion to table case number 03-14, special land use public hearing until our April 17th, 2014 meeting.
I'll make a motion to table case number 03-14-SLU, public hearing to the April 17th Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Batcha. May I have a second, please?
I'll support that.
Mr. Folk? All those in favor? I think I can do, I don't have to do a roll call for
No, you
tabling,
don't.
correct? Thank you.
You're correct.
All in favor for tabling?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That item will be tabled. Okay, and to the case I suspect you are all here for. Mr. Bloom.
Sure. The next case is number 3 on the agenda, case number 01-14-RZ. It's a rezone, Harbor Point of Harrison LLC, 16 Mile and Jefferson, Harrison Township, currently zoned B3 and R1C. The application is to rezone all 3 properties to RM3 for proposed condominiums.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. This is a continuation of our public hearing from our last meeting. We kept it open. I don't think we have to reopen it. It's already open. So if anybody would like to come up and speak to this, feel free. Let us know your name and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Danielle Roberts. I live at 38970 Parkway Circle. I built my home in the North Point subdivision 18 years ago, and we all know when that was one of the newer subdivisions of nicer single-family homes. And considering what has happened around there, there've been a lot of beautiful developments that have come up with Glenmar and Mazakit, and we all know that it's done nothing but improve the quality from our school districts, the people that are living around there. We do have a nice neighborhood, and we like to keep it that way. And the single-family homes, that's been such a positive influence. I'm also a Realtor with RE/MAX, and I'm very aware of what happens with property values when you do put multifamily dwellings. In regards to, I would like to know what the board has done to look into other communities in Macomb County in regards to the percentage of single-family homes compared to the multi-unit developments. Prentice Apartments, yes, they've done a nice job, it looks beautiful, but what are the vacancy rates there? As a community, we are not always aware of what goes on there. In addition to the debacle that has happened at the Beechwood Apartments, it's been a mess. It's all over the news all the time. It's embarrassing. Single-family homes is what has built this community, and the people that have children that have gone to school in our district and so on, a lot of those people do come back, and the reason that they come back is because it is a single-family home community. When you start looking at the people that have lived here for years and the way that they've seen their property values increase and then decline, when you do put multi-dwelling units by single-family homes, it does decrease their property values. We are all aware of that. And as planning the board, you guys owe it to the people in the community to not allow that, because that has a lot to do with what the people here in this community stay here for, is because of the property values, the quality of living, and I think I've kind of touched base on all that. So I'm vehemently opposed to any multifamily dwellings. We have enough here in our community, and we need to continue, if we are going to develop, with putting single-family homes in. That's what betters our community. So,
Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, before we hear from some more residents, just got a question for the planner. Mr. Maher, we received a second set of plans that were second submission since our last public hearing. I guess I'm a little confused, because if we have an open, a public hearing that's open, I would imagine we still need to be working on the initial and original set of plans.
Well, you know, I think part of the concept of leaving the public hearing open was so that the applicants can address any of the preliminary concerns that were issued at the previous meeting. So it would be somewhat standard practice to accept revised information and revised plans. You know, I guess you as a commission can determine whether or not you think it's adequate time, you know, in terms of allowing full review of those plans, and that's a decision that you folks have to make.
Well, and at this point, since we are still in the fact-gathering stage only, accepting all information and not making any actual decisions, we could have the applicant come up and let us know
I'd like
what
to know
changes
changed.
were made on this set of plans.
Residents should know what if they're going to speak on this, they should know what's changed.
Yeah, why
To
don't
me,
we?
this doesn't make a lot of sense.
We certainly could do that. Mr. Caradonna?
Joseph Caradonna, 59219 Van Dyke, Washington, Michigan. Actually, the extra set of prints that was turned in was because I believe when we were here for the public hearing last time, you guys were not aware initially that this was asking for a contract zoning, and it wasn't reviewed as a contract zoning site plan. So we had to turn in additional prints so that everybody could re-review. The engineering, the fire department, the schools, and some of the other people had a chance to comment on it who didn't receive those prints, realizing it was a contract zoning request. The only thing that was changed on the prints from last time was we addressed the parking issue that was brought to our attention, that there was not the inline parking or parallel parking. And we just did that by adding the parking around our central core. So other than that, there's been no changes to the site plan. The resubmission was really for the sole purpose that somehow there was some confusion, and the planning department needed extra sets of prints to be redone. So pretty much everything you saw is the same, with the exception of we addressed the issue that wasn't even brought to our attention on the first planning comments for the parallel parking, and that's no longer an issue with the site plan.
So we are still talking about the same number of buildings, still 120 units?
Yes, same
Everything
layout.
else is remaining exactly the same?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Caradonna.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to
The
get out
only
there
other
with the
thing
new
I can
crowd?
say is, you know, we still stand behind this project. We believe that it's a nice community. A lot of these people keep speaking to the value of the homes and single-family homes, but I did provide to the board some information that was requested last time. One of them was the letter from Signature Associates, who many people may have remembered seeing the sign up there for many years, trying to market it as commercial, saying that he did market it and that he doesn't feel that use is the best for the property. I'd also like to remind everybody that the property is master planned for multifamily. It's been that way, and
Oh, a portion of it is,
a
yes.
portion of it is, and that it's been that way for quite a while, and everybody had a chance to speak against that when the master plan was adopted, and that we are not seeking to do something, rezone anything that's not consistent. I mean, one of the first questions when you go in for rezoning, is it consistent with the master plan? And right now, the zoning as it stands is not. The zoning as proposed is, so. And then lastly, a lot of the people here that live in the area live on canals or on the water, and their homes are priced accordingly because they're a waterfront property. But we've asked a realtor, and we've provided to you a list of comps that's a radius of the area, that are homes that have been sold in 2013 that are not waterfront properties, that do not have a canal and do not have a lake access. And the homes that have sold, I believe there's 14 on the list that I provided. They've been anywhere between 102 to $79,000, and the majority of them being under $160,000.
And
So.
those are of the same square footage. This is the item that we have received this evening.
Yes, those would be of comparable square footage, and there's a map that shows you, the area, it's areas directly around our project. And so these are all of the homes that have sold, and I think it speaks that our price is set accordingly, actually on the higher end of the non-waterfront properties.
Okay, thank you.
And lastly, they keep speaking about apartments. I just want to remind everybody, these are single-family residential homes, 2 bathrooms, some have 3 bathrooms, 1-car garage, 2 bedrooms, and we are looking to sell them, not rent them. This is not an
Well,
apartment project.
But they're condominiums. They're
It
not
is a condominium.
single-family residential homes. They're.
Correct. They're multifamily residential, but
condominiums.
we're not, we continually get compared to apartments when we're trying to build condos.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardone. Okay, anyone else would like to come up and speak? Mr.
How you
Bardell?
doing? William Bardell, 18-year resident, new kid on the block. Why can't you just put single-family 80 by 120 lots, put a berm around it with trees on top? You don't have to make all this kind of money, and respect the residents. We paid a lot of money for our houses. This survey that you did, I'd be very interesting to see where that survey was.
I was just gonna say, I would gladly.
You got a map? You got a plan view map?
If you wanna take a moment and take a look at that and then come back.
Okay,
How's that?
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bardell. If someone would like to have my copy to take a look at, I could. I actually brought it. Did you? If you could please?
I have, if I can get one copy back.
Yeah.
Here's one for you guys,
Mr. Peterman?
Yes. One thing that, and in addition to the comments we brought out last month, one of the points was additional utilities having to be brought in. And if this plan were to go forward, I would request that those utilities be put in first, because we already talked about additional pumping stations or drainage sites. One of the comments made of the developer was if, there weren't as many, that it may be looking for the township to help offset some of that cost. I would request that all of that cost be borne up front prior to any building actually start to put those pumping stations in, if any of those extra utilities were required, so it doesn't become an extra tax-based burden on the existing residents. So that part is taken care of before, so it doesn't become a lingering problem later on to deal with utility discharge and things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Peterman.
My name's Jim Yervasi. I live at 38070 Villamar
Could
in
you
Harrison
spell your
Township.
last name, please?
Y-E-R, V as in Victor, A-S-I.
Thank you.
I just was wondering how the infrastructure costs are going to be borne. You're talking 120 residents, just in road costs and wastewater disposal and all that. Who's financing that? Has that been projected by the applicant, or is that cost going to be borne by the township, or are we just going to have to be inconvenienced by it?
Okay, thank you. And actually, just so you know, what we're going to do is we're going to be collecting all the questions, and then we're going to give Mr. Cardone and Mr. Khan a chance to get up and answer as many as they can, okay? Thank you, Mr. Yervasi. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, as I look at this, coming out of one of the worst recessions since World War II, the Great Recession that we just got through, the foreclosures, people leaving in the middle of the night, and house flippers coming in. You can't blame a house flipper. They come in, they flip the house, they fix it up. But sure, yeah, they get the low ball price. And then you see Prentice and these other things. The subdivision Prentice, that doesn't even compare to where we live. Doesn't even compare. There's no comparison. You can't put Prentice on there and compare it to Point Rosa or Villamar or Seaway Island. There's no comparison. You're comparing apple to oranges. You don't have to make a killing. You put up a berm, you put up 80 by 120 lots, 130, and you put a berm up with trees, and you respect the citizens, and you put a nice subdivision there like River Bend or something, like normal. You put these multi-family condos, that's where all the cops go, that's where all the problems are. We don't need it. That's blight. Just put on 80 by 130 lots, like a normal house. Put normal houses in there, 3-4 bedroom, 2-3 baths, basement, 2 or 3 car garage, either 80 foot wide, 100 foot wide, 120, 130 deep. Put these in your neighborhood. Build houses in your neighborhood like you want to build here. That's what you do. You put up a berm, 10 feet high, trees around it. Put a street down there, and maybe save a soccer field or two for the little kids to play on. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bordeaux.
Danielle Roberts again. I actually had a question because I haven't seen the plans. Are they 1-story, 2-story? And I was told that there were 8 buildings. So as far as that many units, it does, if you've got 120 units, it does tend to look like an apartment building. It does not look like a residential condominium. In addition to that, a 1-garage condominium is not meant for, quote, a family. And I don't know what your proposed target audience is for that particular type of building, but most families don't move into a 1-car garage unit when they're compared to home properties of the same value that have larger properties and larger buildings in addition to that. So those were some of my questions, I guess, is are they 1-story, 2-story? And when you do clump them together, and there's only 8 buildings, it does look like an apartment, and it does not look good in our community, so.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
Susan Brooks, 29317 South Seaway Court. I've lived on Seaway for 40 years and have seen great changes in our area. As the lady spoke about the new development on the north side of the parkway, it's very lovely. Our subdivision is great. Thornwood has kept up. When you look at the area, it's kind of a triangle between the Parkway, Prentice, and Jefferson. So I haven't seen the plans either. So where are the entrances to this development? And it involves very limited streets. Prentice is just a 2-lane road. The Parkway's very busy. And in the summertime, the traffic gets to be quite bad. And to add 120 additional residences in that small area, I think is excessive.
Ms. Brooks, I'm actually going to take this opportunity to, if you would like to come up and grab this, you are welcome to share this. As long as I get it back by the end of the evening, you're welcome to take a look at this. This is the full set of plans. You're welcome to share it. I've got a couple copies here that I can review if questions do come forward. Okay, anyone else? Yes.
Tim Foley, 38008 Seaway. I just wonder if anybody's done a study, a traffic study of this area. And I say that because as a longtime resident at this point, on weekends and especially on holidays, Metro Beach Parkway is impassable. You want to sit in line for a long, long time. And the same thing is true now on Jefferson, and that hasn't been widened. It's only a 2-lane road. And so I'm not so sure that putting that kind of density in that particular part of the triangle is doable. Start with that. And with all due respect to the Planning Commission and the master plan, I can't for the life of me understand why, it's zoned the way it is. Personally, I would like to see the township buy your property and buy all of the property as it becomes available in that triangle. At some point, the Callawort Farms are going to become available, and right now, the whole community uses it as soccer fields. Well, it would seem to me that the township ought to forget about buying a 100-year-old school building and concentrate on building a property bank so that at some time in the future when we can afford it, we can put up decent buildings for the township and turn that other area in the triangle into a huge recreational center for the residents in Harrison Township. And that should include tennis courts. It should include baseball fields, football fields, soccer fields for the kids. And that's the kind of area that would go with the surrounding area. And so I think if this proposal doesn't fly, the township ought to open up their pocketbook and buy it. Myself, I believe that. I'd support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Anyone else? Any questions for the applicant or comments?
Good evening. My name is Christine Peterman. I live at 38233 Seaway Court. And I just need clarification. We were discussing there's 3 zones, and one zone, if I understood, is designated as a multi-dwelling?
Currently, right now, the property as it sits is zoned B3, business, commercial, in 2 sections. And the center portion is currently zoned single-family residential. The applicant is requesting that all 3 zones be rezoned to multiple-family residential at its highest density.
So my question is, when you purchased the property,
You have to address.
when the property was purchased, what was it zoned?
As it is, as it sits today, 2 B3 sections and a single-family residential section.
So it was zoned for business and single family?
That's how it sits today.
And that's how it was
today.
purchased?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify.
And let me just clarify also then that in the master plan,
What is the master plan?
The master plan is the future of the township, essentially.
Okay.
And that, excuse me, part of that section was designated for future multiple family, not at that high density, but multiple family. The 2 business sections, the B3 sections, the commercial property, that one section is right on the corner of 16 and Jefferson. The other section is a little bit down further across the street from Reflections, the hair salon that's there.
Okay.
A little bit down further.
Okay.
Those 2 sections are slated to stay the same as commercial B3. Only the center portion that is currently listed as single-family residential is potentially slated for multiple family in the future. So I
Okay.
just want to make that clear.
But when the property was purchased, it was to the understanding that they bought the property as single family and business?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Peterman. Anyone else? Hi.
Alicia St. Germain, 38252 Mast. First of all, I agree with Mr. Foley. I pulled this off the Harrison Township website. It's a census. And as it stands, it says, I'll read it, economic characteristics of Harrison Township. Already, the median income level is lower in Harrison Township than the median income level in all of Macomb County. That tells us that we already have enough apartments and condos. And then also, you'd be surprised that we can find out on the internet. I guess I would have a question for the builder if he also built Shelby Woods North and Shelby Township, those condominiums. Because as I'm reading reviews on the internet, Mr. Caradonna was fined in November 18th, 2011 for basically, in a nutshell, making promises that he didn't keep. The condos, you know, yeah, they were supposed to be nice, going for 140,000, and then 6 months later, they were for sale as low as 78,000. If, you know, it's Joseph Lawrence Caradonna, if that's him, like I said, you'd be surprised what you can find on the internet. So, you know, he might make promises, granite countertops, this and that, but according to these residents in these condos, that's not what they got. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. St. Germain.
Danielle Roberts again. I was involved in the whole issue in regards to when North Point, where our whole subdivision was lied to by the builders and the developers in regards to, quote, not putting streets through and where things were going to go and so on. And so what is promised in front of the board and to the residents oftentimes isn't what happened. So I just wanted to say that I did experience that in regards to what she was just talking about, and people can come and say, you know, that they're going to do this and they're going to do that, but then afterward, things are not what they were sold as, per se.
And let me just, if I can address that really quickly. We, as a commission, are not an enforcement agency at all.
I know.
We can approve the site plan. The site plan can then go through the process and get built. And then any further verification becomes, I want to say the ordinance officer. An ordinance issue becomes an ordinance issue at that point. And so I just want you to understand that our point, our position.
Right, and I mean, my family, my husband and I were involved in the trips to Lansing and fought the entire situation, and it was proven that we were lied to and that, you know, there were some funds given back, but it certainly didn't make up for that. And there's still many traffic issues in regards to North Point and so on, not to get on that issue, but, you know, you've also, like somebody did bring up, the whole aspect of the traffic and the safety for the citizens. If you put 108 units in there, 120 units, I meant 8 buildings that do look like apartment buildings, that does create some issues in regards to you know, accessibility for safety, like we said, in regards to Metro Beach being packed on weekends and so on. It would be virtually impossible for ambulances to get through in that area in any safe or direct route. It's quite a distance. And one of the reasons that they forced North Point to go through, that was the major issue, that was approved to go through. And when you're talking about traffic issues like that and the placement of you know, our fire departments and ambulances and so on, that does, should be a concern of the planning board as well, so.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
May I come up before I forget?
Yeah, actually, if there are any more residents, I've got a list of your questions, though. Yeah, I do, yeah, I've got a list of your questions. No, okay, yeah, I've got you covered. Any other residents would like to come up before we?
We couldn't find where it was coming in and out. You gave us the plan.
It is on the plan. Well, I can just tell you right now. There's one entrance, one entrance that is almost across from the party store. Yeah, it's a little bit, it's between the party store and the Tasty Freeze, or Tasty Boy, off of Jefferson. Thank you, Frosty Boy, thank you. Off of Jefferson, one entrance there.
That's a terrible.
Okay, all right, hold on, hold that thought, okay. Yes, sir.
Hi.
No, hold on. Okay, yes, sir.
Mark Prusatis,
Could you
P-R-U-S-A-I-T-I-S,
Thank you.
38044 Seaway. I think you guys are seeing we've got a great community here. We got a lot of people, all concerned, right? Property values, you've heard about traffic. I don't know if you've gone up and down Metro Parkway lately, but it looks like a minefield, right? Certainly Jefferson the same way. We've had a lot of good comments about what to do with the property. I think the last thing really any of us want to see is somebody who's, you know, trying to make some money not be able to make some money. But at the end of the day, it's our community, right? We've got a lot of people who've been here for many, many years. We've got a lot of investment in this community. And those that live on the canals paid a lot of money for those homes. And we've seen our property values drop, and they're very slowly coming back. The last thing we want to see is for them to drop again, okay? Some of us are getting close to retirement, and, you know, it'd be nice to be able to have a little nest egg that says, it's paid for, this is mine, and not have that nest egg crushed, because we've got these multifamily homes right across the street from us, okay? The traffic issue is a concern. It's a big concern, okay? Utilities is a big concern. Property values is a big concern, right? I would rather see, if you're gonna put single home families in there, build some beautiful homes that attract, you know, professionals to bring in some money and boost our neighborhoods, not drive it down further.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, if not, we're gonna give Mr. Caradona a chance to come up and address your questions.
I'd like to start by saying that all you people have valid concerns and points. We did purchase the property knowing what it was zoned. We also did know what the master plan called for. The one thing we did not know when we purchased the property was that there's a capacity issue for sanitary sewer and discharge issues, that no one wants water discharged into their canals. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, this is an economic issue that we're trying to calculate enough units that make economic sense for us to be able to afford the infrastructure and improvements required to improve the pump stations that the township needs, that we said we would pay for on our expense, not at any taxpayer's expense. And the only way to do that is to have enough units to spread that over to make it economically feasible. If I went in with a single-family residential as it's currently zoned, and the business zoning, which the business pieces are very small. It's just the small corner in relationship. It's probably 10% of the overall property would stay business. We would not be able to get enough lots to do those improvements. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, we're here to compromise. We're here to work with the community. If I knew there was a way to get extra capacity and I could put in, I think someone said the number 75 units or something, or lesser units or single-family homes, and I didn't have the expense of upgrading the pump stations and discharging stormwater and going crazy to accommodate everybody, we definitely would love to work with you. But I stand here before you not trying to be a glutton, not trying to take a lot of money, but only trying to make a project work on a piece of property we bought. And there's issues in the community that the sanitary sewer is not something we created. And every person who owns a home or a piece of property deserves the right, and I think it's actually the law, that we have access to those utilities in some form or fashion. So, you know, we're not here. My family's built thousands and thousands of residential units. You'll find my name on the internet. I'm not perfect. Everybody has something bad to say about somebody else. The project she mentioned in Shelby Woods was started before the economic downturn. And I can tell you, if you were to speak to anybody from Shelby Township, we turned that project around. We survived the downturn. We survived failing banks. We bought the project back from the bank. And I think the supervisor and the boards would be very happy that they kept us involved. And there's a project that's almost finished now. Some people lost their homes. Some people went in foreclosure. Some people get mad. They blame everybody else but themselves. I mean, that's not my fault. I'm not here to say I'm perfect. We've had state complaints. We've had this. I think anybody who has a driver's license or any kind of license and built thousands of units, someone's going to be unhappy. Not all personalities click. But we think our plan is a very attractive building. It has multi-level units. We have split levels. We have ranch units. We have first and second floor units. They're all with 2 bedrooms. Maybe it's a starter family. Maybe it's a single person. Maybe it's an elderly person who lives in that home, has 1 car, and wants to be able to walk on the trail and go to the beach. The property has a road on all sides of it, pretty much, on 3 sides of it. And, you know, I understand berms and all that's great, but I'd wonder if any of these people would buy a $300,000-$400,000 home in the middle of that intersection with roads all the way around and berms and everything else. I just don't know if it's economically feasible. So I stand here tonight saying I'm willing to work, but it's dollars and cents. And if the township wants to buy the property, I'm sure we can negotiate a fair price as well. But I don't think that's something that's an option. So, you know, if we have any suggestions as to, hey, there's enough capacity to squeeze 75 units in, come back with a detached condo, you know, a residential site, and you don't have to do any improvements, I would love it. But I only ask that you guys understand, I'm not here because I want to degrade the community, I want to upset people, I'm trying to put in all these units. I'm here because $1 million of improvements that benefit everybody in the community, not just me, because on rain days right now, your pumps can't handle it. Selfridge is really the biggest problem. They dump their storm right into the sanitary, and eventually the lake gets sewer into it. So the benefits to these 2 pump stations we offer to do at our expense would benefit everyone in the community. And the only way we can afford it, it was with this number of units. So if there's any other way we can do something and we can get some help or some other expense, which I'm sure no one wants to pay for, I'm open to ideas. But I'm here tonight saying, I think this is the best looking product, the best project we can bring to you that's economically feasible for this site.
Mr. Caradona, it was mentioned, Mr. Foley brought up a traffic study. Have you performed any traffic studies on that corner yet?
We have not.
Okay.
It wasn't part of your request. That usually comes later if needed.
And, excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, I think you hit everything. Okay, anything else that you would like to share with the
The only other thing is that I believe, and I defer to you guys, but if you could close the public hearing tonight, if it's your pleasure, I would ask that you vote if that's something that's possible to do. I know typically you can't vote the night of the public hearing, but I believe you can close it and vote tonight because it's been open long enough already, so.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Okay, anyone else like to speak? Anyone else had an opportunity to take a look at the plans and would like to come up? Okay. Mr. Peterman?
I'm sorry, I just had one question. You mentioned, you know, if you brought what is the maximum amount of single-family units, or you could bring in that you wouldn't have to bring additional pumping stations in? What is the capacity of the stations?
I'm not sure of that answer.
Because we've triggered around the number 120, but then we've also said if 75 was it, and then it's a single family. Where do we trigger that we need a
The
pumping
upgrade
station?
to the
Yeah, exactly.
pumping and to the utilities?
Right.
I'm not sure if we know, Mr. Maher, do we know that? Yeah, I'm not sure if we know that information offhand.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I was answering a question.
I'm sorry. Mr. Peterman is asking if we know what the number of potential pieces of building that would cause us to upgrade. What would we put there? 10 homes, 50 homes? How many homes do we have to put there before we reach a point where we have to upgrade?
I don't think in any form or fashion, you know, we've done anything to figure that based on this submittal.
Mr. Newmer?
Mr. Newmer would be the one to.
Yeah, actually we did. At the developer's request, they funded a study where we actually did an analysis of the capacity of the sanitary sewer to determine exactly that, if there was an issue and what had to be done. And the results of that study are that basically the pump stations that you have now are either at or over capacity. So, my answer would be none.
Okay. So basically, any addition to that property, we're going to require an upgrade. It's going to require an upgrade of some sort.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Newman. The gentleman? Ms. Roberts, if you could hold on 1 second. This gentleman hasn't had a chance to speak yet.
I was only going to say that the property, even if we left it as zoned, where everybody it's a right in the community to have access to utilities. And right now, there's no access to utilities. So I bought a piece of property. I would have loved to do single-family homes. And I was told you can't even build one house on this property. You can't build a Dunkin' Donuts on the corner. You can't put up a golf dome that was suggested. Right now, I can't put one toilet on the property. So we did what we felt was feasible to afford to upgrade the pump station, which wasn't a problem we created. It's over capacity before we came into the market. So we're fixing a problem, not creating it.
Thank you. This gentleman here. Excuse me.
Madam Chair, you may want to ask if any speakers come up to that, that cares.
Oh, that's right, we do have our on-deck chairs available for anyone who would like to be next and next and next. Yes, sir, your name, please?
Good evening, Board. Chuck Callowert, 38063 Malist, lifetime resident. Family actually owns about 10 acres within the triangle, which is zoned single-family and has been since I don't know when. But if anything that happens within that triangle is going to impact the other property left in the triangle. So if it's rezoned in a fashion that will impact the other property negatively, I would be against that. I also had a question about this contract plan or whatever. If we don't have a traffic study and we don't have these things, how can we do a contract at this point? To me, it feels more like a PUD type of situation, but I don't deal with it on a regular basis to really speak to that. And, but, you know, the idea of the single family pretty much in the entire triangle, and the fact that now we're going to start piecemealing other things into it. You know, I understand there's some small pieces of business in there and so forth, but I feel that that would be a detriment to the other property owners, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration. As far as the infrastructure and so forth, that's another thing that, you know, the more impervious surface you bring into that area, the more you're going to have issues with storm drainage. There's a lot of storm drainage issues, not just within the triangle, but on the north side of 16 Mile. I believe the Lobostal School sends all their stormwater to the north side of 16 Mile, yet it pools along the road there and sits for a period of time in an area that's really not designed to be a detention area. So a lot of challenges, and I think that finally I'll just reiterate about the density. And the density is too great, and it needs to be something closer to what would be adjacent to those properties to be compatible with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Okay, Mr. Bardell.
Yeah, William Bardell. If I didn't have my boots on, my socks would be falling down. I've been a tradesman and engineer for 35 years. I know how much builders make. You can make plenty of money on single-family homes. I know how much they make, okay? I've been doing this stuff for 35 years. I know how much they make. There's no reason why you can't put single-family homes in there and put up a berm and do what you're supposed to do. There's a movie called Mo Money, and I think this is Mo Money.
Thank you, Mr. Bardell. Okay, and at this point, let me just say, we've had quite a few issues come up, so if we could, new issues, please.
Okay,
New
but
questions, new
actually,
comments.
this is the last time I'm gonna come up, I promise.
No,
But
it's just something new. I
My
just don't want a
comment
reiteration of-
actually is, as a community, it is not our responsibility to make sure that an investor comes in and makes a profitable profit off a piece of property and asks us as a community to change it, because it is not our responsibility to do that. He bought the property as was, and again, as a community, it is not our responsibility. He took it, he bought it, and he knew what he was getting himself into. Many of us have experienced situations like that as well, where it has not been profitable, and we do not owe it to him to help him make profit as a developer. It's our community that should be looked at first. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
You got a lot of ink in that pen.
Yeah, I'm working on, well, I think I'll have a good one
First
for
name
next
is
meeting.
Ed, last name is spelled S-Z-A-R-Z-Y-N.
Could you
S,
pronounce that, please? Oh, okay.
Ed, E-D.
That's good, thank you.
Yeah, Ed, did you get the S-K-I at the end there?
Okay, got it.
Visualize, if you will, the traffic jam that we're going to have at that corner of Jefferson and 16. And there's only one entrance and exit. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have the party store, you have the, was it Tasty Boy or Frosty Boy? Frosty Boy. On the weekends, or even in the evenings during the summer, you're going to have a heck of a lot of traffic there. It's on a bend, all right? And I can visualize being stuck in traffic, people trying to make left-hand turns off of Jefferson into the property, making right-hand turns. off of Jefferson after they cross 16. So I think that what the community is looking for, should you approve this, is another traffic jam, of which I'm not in favor of. I don't see any hands going up back here saying, yeah, we love them. So if you would take that into consideration, that, you know, we don't need any more traffic jams. Kids are going to be running around Frosty Boy, the party store, and it's just increases the opportunity of somebody getting hurt, or perhaps, you know, God forbid, traffic accidents that would end up taking out a taxpayer. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Sarzinski.
Good evening. My name is Cindy LaPierre, and the only thing that I want to bring to the attention of hopefully everybody here, this is through experience. My parents bought or built their house on Seaway. It was over 50 years ago. It was when I was in my early 20s. I am 75 years old now.
God bless you.
The experience that we had with the different builders in the area was not very pleasant. There were periods of time where we could not use the water to drink because it was so dirty and it had to be cleaned up before we could use it. The electricity would go out because the units weren't strong enough to pump the electricity. The water for the bathrooms could not be used. And this went on for quite a few years, and we kept getting promises everything's going to be fixed. It took very, very, very long time for those things to take place. And if this goes through, that's what's going to happen if isn't done correctly. Thank you.
May I have your name again, please?
Cindy LaPierre.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Hello.
Good evening. Robert Silya, 38007 Lakeshore. I've heard a lot of comments in regards to traffic, and I would like to ask that when the traffic study is done, that it also goes all the way down to the entrances and exits off of I-94 on the Metro Parkway, since Metro Parkway will be the main way in. I'm sure we've all experienced the lovely delays just trying to get off the expressway coming into the neighborhood. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Okay, anyone who has not had an opportunity to speak this evening, and any additional issue that we have not heard?
My name is Tony Tipton. I live at 38007 Lakeshore Drive. I'd just like to say one thing. We've been here for 25 years. When we first moved here, how beautiful it was to come down 16 Mile and all these beautiful trees. It was that's actually one of the biggest reasons we moved here. And I just feel like what you're doing is trying to put a house on every damn corner. And we will not have any beauty to this community. And that is my biggest concern. And that's the thing that you need to start looking at. Do we really need it? Do you? And that's the question I pose.
Thank you, Ms. Tipton.
Alicia St. Germain.
That's right. I'm going to add your comment to your section.
I just have another question for the builder. When he bought the property, what was his original intent? And if he knew, you know, when I bought my house, I knew what I was buying, you know, and when you're stuck with it, so.
Thank
that's
you.
all I have.
Okay, anyone else? This is your opportunity.
You can ask your own question. Hi, my name's Lori Yervasi, 38070 Vilmar. My question to the builder, because I know where he lives, because the CFO of my company does, and like a $400,000 house, would he build these next to where he lives? Because there's very expensive houses in Washington Township. Number two is that I walk, ride my bike, and do all that. I live on Vilmar, I go up Jefferson, and you really have to watch, even by the party store. I do not have children, but if I did, I wouldn't want them riding their bike with all this other traffic. And that's a real big concern, because we had a kid on the street almost get hit because we don't have sidewalks. So, I mean, just think of that, and we have a side street with no sidewalks, and someone almost got hit. If you have all this extra traffic with kids, I mean, that's a big concern, especially with Lobostal being there. The bus is coming up and down Jefferson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, Mr. Cardona, would you like to come back up and address the couple of questions that were brought up?
Actually, do you have some of them still
I
written?
do. When you purchased the property, what was your intent when you purchased the property?
Prior to purchasing it, we did have some preliminary meetings with the planner and with the, as we do with the township. And again, it was consistent with the master plan that it be multifamily. At the time when we purchased it, we weren't aware of the expense of the sewer capacity issue. And at that point, that's when we adapted the plan. But to speak to everybody about the traffic issues, 120 units, one-car garage, or 16 acres as it's currently zoned, would yield probably 45, 50 homes on the property, three lots per acre approximately. With 2- and 3-car garages, as they've suggested, it's ultimately pretty much the same amount of vehicles when it's all said and done. The homes have more people, more residents. So.
Okay, all right.
I don't know.
Come on.
A three-car garage times 50 homes is 150. One-car garage times 120 is 120. So, you know, and.
Please.
But,
please.
and you know, she asked if I would live by condominiums. Where my neighborhood is, there is condominiums down the street from us. Where Shelby Woods North, one of the projects that they mentioned, which is the same building, same style, it was actually across the street from the home where I grew up and where my family lived. It was on my family's property. So I have no problem with this unit being there. I think that everybody deserves a chance to live in a nice community. And I even feel that some of these people are somewhat being, you know, judgmental and even maybe racial, trying to judge who's going to live in their community.
All right. I think that's unnecessary. Let's keep this clean, please.
And maybe that's the wrong word, but
That
I
is
just
the
mean,
wrong word.
forgive me for using that word, but I'm just saying I don't see what matters because they live in an expensive home, why someone else shouldn't have the opportunity to live in the fine community that doesn't make as much money as them. And forgive the racial word, but I don't know what the right word for someone who's against someone economic class warfare or something like that. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, so no other information that you want to impart? Should we close the public hearing this evening?
No, thank you.
Okay, please have a seat. Okay, we've heard from several of you. We've had questions answered from the applicant. Do you have any, before we close this public hearing, do you have anything left to say? Any other comments, any other questions?
What's the next step in this process?
Can you come forward, please?
What's your next step in this process?
The next step is for us to, once we close the public hearing, we will take all of the information that we've received, go over it. Generally, the practice is we close the public hearing and then we don't make a decision until the next meeting. That allows us an opportunity to go over all of the information, all of the plans, and do our due diligence. The applicant, however, is requesting a vote this evening. I'm not sure if we're prepared to make that vote. We will have to discuss that amongst us once we close the public hearing. So that's where we're at this point. So there may be a vote this evening. If not, then we'll be prepared to make a vote at the next meeting, which is
Madam
March 20th, I believe. Yes, Mr. Meyer?
Just a reminder that the decision made here is a recommendation to the township. board.
Correct, thank you very much. Yes, that's right. That's right. If we make a positive decision, it's a recommendation to the township to move forward with the rezoning effort. If we deny, that is also a recommendation to the township board, but that pretty much stops it in its tracks, does it not? The
No,
denial?
again, it's a
No.
recommendation
Okay,
to the
just a
board.
recommendation
They'll make
only.
the final decision regardless of the
Okay.
recommendation of the
Okay,
commission.
thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to clarify something. I know that the petitioner has used the word contract rezoning, but it's really a conditional rezoning. Contract rezoning isn't allowed by the statute. So the township may approve a conditional rezoning based on the voluntary conditions that go along with the site plan. Prior to the Zoning Enabling Act, people would come in for rezonings and say, hey, this is what we think we're gonna build here, and people would think that's what they're getting. And that wasn't always the case. It was if you rezone a property, anything under that zone was allowed. With this particular avenue, it allows the petitioner to come in and say, hey, these are the conditions I'm willing to make this piece of property work for that zoning. It is tied to the conditions, it's tied to the conditions that you put on the use and the development itself. So it applies to what is used there and what is built there. So you should consider that with regard to your review, that it's not necessarily just, the petitioner is willing to, he talked about maybe reducing the density if there was a possible way. Those are still options available. It doesn't mean that they're set in stone. He can offer new conditions to you and/or the board. But that would all have to be tied in to any approval if there was one granted. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Rosemary.
You're welcome.
Question, just to follow up to that, Rosemary. That being said, the conditions that are being proposed by the applicant, is the planning commission to take those conditions as their proposal, and we only then make decision on that proposal, and is it a form of negotiation, or is it they make a proposal on conditions, that's what we evaluate on?
Right.
And if we don't find those conditions to be appropriate, so be it. I'm not saying it is or isn't. We just stop at that point based upon what's being submitted in front of us.
Well, there's no stopping, it's just a recommendation to the board. You can say, based on these conditions presented, we either A, approve it, and make that part of our recommendation of approval, that all these conditions are met, and, it's tied to the site plan and what was said and what was agreed to, or you deny it based upon, or make a recommendation of denial based on what was presented, and the conditions presented.
Well, a partial, okay.
Further follow-up to that then?
Oh, and I do have one more follow-up, because you talked about enforcement. Usually, and it's up to the township board whether it's approved or denied, if these conditions are tied to the site plan, it would be probably appropriate and a wise thing to do that. That's put into a document and it is recorded with the Macomb County Register of Deeds so that it's on notice, and recorded that these conditions go with the land.
And you said it's a recordable document, so then whatever the constraints to the conditions become the written recordable document that is at the Register of Deeds for everybody to review. Mr. Maher, you made, I'm still kind of following up with that, so I don't think I'm getting too far out of line here, but, Pat, you made reference to the conditions in your, February 17th letter. Do we have those, did we see what those conditions are?
The
I'm not sure.
conditions that were offered were in the initial application.
It's in the initial application? It was not amended for this meeting then?
Not that I'm aware of, other than the site plan itself, but the site plan itself, as written in the conditions, was not a part and parcel to the conditions
All right,
associated.
this is a question, I
with the
didn't know if
zone.
the drawings were amended, I didn't know if the conditions got amended also. They were not, though.
I have not received any amended conditions.
Very well.
Okay, any other questions before we make a decision to, oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah, just
Peterman,
one more
thank you,
question.
Mr. Peterman.
And we're actually brought up by Ms. Davis on the conditions. If the board recommends changing the zoning, is it only conditional on this property? Or if this project should fall through, is it still going to be, is it rezoned, would it still then be rezoned as a multifamily dwelling?
If it.
Or does it revert back to its
No,
original?
actually, it doesn't stay with the property. If it's conditional, it's rezoned just for forever?
If this project doesn't go through, then there is no, it would revert back.
It would revert
Because
back.
it's based upon this
Okay.
project
Okay.
alone.
Just this project alone?
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Okay. Any other questions for anyone?
Madam Chair, just for the applicant relative to parking. So I see that the parking was moved towards the center portion around the recreation area. But when I do the calculations again, we have 120 spots in garages, one for each unit. You have 131 parking spots around the complex, which 120 of which should be for residents, so basically 240, which leaves visitor parking of 11 spots. I don't see that being adequate parking at all. Another question is, you do have wetlands, which are incorporated in your plan, and I guess I did not see, and maybe it's in here, any wetland mitigation and how you're gonna handle that.
There is no, the wetlands that are on the site are not regulated. We do have a letter to that effect from the ASTI, the wetland consultant that we used. It should have been turned in with the package. It may not have been. But I can tell you they're not regulated wetlands, they're not connected, and they're under the size. And then the parking that's there does meet your requirement by code. I believe Mr. Maher checked the numbers, and it wasn't a comment in the new planning review, that is adequate parking for the site based on the requirements of the ordinance.
Okay, we'll look into that. Thank you.
The only other thing is I have had other instances, the question about the conditional zoning. In other communities, when we've asked for that, there have been amendments to the conditions that have put on record that ultimately got incorporated. So if you were to say, hey, we would favor this, but make it 7 units, or, 7 buildings and lose some units, or add this extra tree or something like that, I believe it is possible to add conditions or modify them prior to making a recommendation if you're going to recommend based on those conditions.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, just to respond to that, the Planning Commission can't technically push the developer towards adding any type of conditions, but the developer certainly can add conditions if he desires based on your comments and concerns, as well as the public's.
Prior to recommendation.
That's correct.
Good, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion to close the public hearing. May I have a second, please?
Support that.
Mr. Bloom, roll call, please, Mr. Bloom.
Member Tominelli?
Yes.
Member Bloom, yes. Member Falk?
Yes.
Member Batchor?
Yes.
Chairperson Moore?
Yes. Motion carries. The public hearing for Harbor Point Harrison LLC, case number 01-14 RZ for rezone, is closed. Okay.
Move on to the next agenda item, please.
Do we want to?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item at this point.
Okay. Our next agenda item this evening is unfinished business, of which we have none. No new business, no correspondence. Any comments from the planner?
Comments from the planner?
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
We've had a request to move
Right.
forward with our agenda.
Right.
Any comments from the planner?
No, just at this time, Madam Chair, we're still working out a date for our workshop to final out the master plan. I will be emailing out one portion which we have not, or I'm sorry, zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
Master plan has been the topic of discussion here tonight, but with regard to the zoning ordinance, in particular, I want to get a section out to you well ahead of time, which has to do with the technical reviews, and if everyone can take a look at that prior to the meeting, it would be helpful, and if you have
And
any
dates
immediate
available.
input, shoot it back to me so
Okay.
I can try to make some amendments prior to the workshop.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Anything else?
That's all I've got for you
Thank you.
tonight, Madam Chair.
Comments from the floor before we close our meeting? Mr. Bardell?
I just want to say that, you know, I'm not opposed to developers making money, but, you know, I know how much builders make, and I know how much they make on a single-family house. I just think it would be a good idea to have single-family homes in there and not bring our neighborhood down. And comparing our houses with the houses on Prentice and north of 16 over there, that's ludicrous. So I would hope that we get some common sense here and do the right thing for the residents of this tax-paying residents of this township. Because these type of things are slippery slope. It's a slippery slope down.
Thank you, Mr.
And you know, also the builder also said that his family home where he grew up was next to a condo. Well, that was when he grew up. I'm talking about right now. So you got to watch the words that are, you know, we got to carefully watch the words that are said. And I just hope that everybody has interests of the residents first and foremost. That goes for our planners, our lawyers, everybody here. It's about the residents. So I hope that's the first thing we work on.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Bardell. Any other comments from the floor? Okay, our next meeting is March 20th, 2014. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Madam Chair, before that, if I could.
Yes.
To the applicant of the Harbor Point of Harrison, I just wanted to make sure that they received from the letter dated
thank you.
February 14th from Wade Trim, and to carefully address those issues there. There's a lot on there. And the letter from CPM of February 17th, there's also a lot of issues there to be addressed for the next meeting. And Mr. Maher, I don't know if there is such a thing. I looked high and low. What truly affects home values? I know that it's a different perception for everyone, and I can't find a clear guideline. In our heads, we all have a value, and we all have a thought process. Is it a quarter mile, a mile? Is it a 100% difference in cost? Is there anything between now, I'm not asking for nothing right now, between now and 3 weeks from now, anything whatsoever that you can statistically, I deal mostly in statistics and facts, and I can't find that stuff. I understand the sentimental value of it, everyone, I truly do. I don't know if there's any evidence or anything or guidelines that we can work to on that, to have that as part of our packet.
You know, I think if you're looking for something that's going to say this is going to decrease home values 13.7% in this particular area, you're not going to find that. You know, if you want to look at prevailing trends and so forth, you know, we could provide some info on that. Is that going to be an absolute that this particular development's going to have an impact on waterfront homes? You know, probably not. You know, in that case, you're going to have to make a valued assessment. You know, the residents have brought up why they feel it's going to have a negative impact on their values with regard to traffic, with regard to the value of these particular units going in. So, you know, and I think if you look at prevailing trends in some respects, many of that stuff will hold true.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Folk, for including these. I meant to include these. I was using them as my note paper this evening.
Madam Chair, I just had one question. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Mr. Peterman.
The applicant asked for if you could have a vote tonight. I know you didn't have that in your agenda. If you could just inform the public, when will you be voting and what the next
We will
steps
be
are?
voting at
Thank
our
you.
next meeting, March 20th. And with that, our next meeting is March 20th, and unless the board members have any further comments? Nothing from the table? I have nothing. Thank you all for coming tonight. Our next meeting will be March 20th, 2014. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved. Support.
Support. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting is ended. Thank you. No.
No way.
No.
Don't let it stew.
Right. Right. But I had to ask. Yeah.
Just started lingering around and they're going to want to see what happens.